Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Wrath of the Righteous with me, Bring It On. Off camera, I rested and buffed up.
I know what to do.
My character model is currently bugged inside his mount. Either way, let's go confront Svendek. One could have mistaken this wretched mortal for a stuffed effigy, if not for the eyes, alive and full of pain. I do see the tick swarms here. I'm assuming she's going to burst into a swarm of ticks at some point during the fight. Svendek is focused on the prisoners groaning in unbearable pain as they're eaten alive by a swarm of horrible creatures. The voracious monsters look bloated, yet they keep growing in size. My babies, the brood of our Lord himself. He grew up so fast. Never mind. She already had her children. And now they're eating. Svendek looks over at you. Look here. Look what tasty meal your mommy has prepared for you. The vile scum of Galarian that has insulted our master. Maybe, as a reward for his death, the great Baphomet will give your mommy his loyal Arilu to take your place as the arch-priestess. And then, my sweet children, will ascend and rule. She breaks into boisterous laughter. As you can see, fate has been kind to me. I've had these little darlings. They're all healthy and very hungry. I'm glad you've arrived just in time for their meal. Well, this is a lie, since I already found it, but I'm going to ask anyway. I'm looking for a blade named Dawnflower's Kiss. She giggles slyly. Don't even think about it. All of Apenavicius's treasures now belong to me, as the sole inheritor of this prison and its new mistress. Even that useless scrap of metal. Were you holding the hand of the inheritor? Oh, that little bird got to sit in the sturdiest cage. You still haven't found it, have you? And you never will. But I'll gladly show you your own prison. Alright, well, time to die. My babies, here's your second course. The horde creatures interrupt their bloody feast and focus all their attention on you. Their soft flesh is bound in moist, shiny carapaces, and their fat bodies rest on articulate legs. Owless heads have fearsome-looking jaws, the snapping of which drowns out Svendek's mad cackling.
They will break against our resolve.
So this is where my party's going to struggle a little bit because they're very martial focused. And physical damage does not excel against swarms in the slightest.
Let's try this way.
The inheritor, guide my blade.
You've crossed the wrong mongrel.
Cool. Alright, his model's fixed. All he had to do was attack something.
This will hurt.
Alright, so we do have Scrolls of Sirocco somewhere. Let me find those real fast.
The light, take you. I will resist. Into the fray.
A calculated risk.
You're irrelevant.
This
I'm surprised we did that without any losses. And even Bismuth is still standing. Awesome. Yeah, killing him is probably the best option.
I will help where I can.
Alright, a letter from the Warden's chambers. A page covered in demonic symbols. Master, I humbly ask that you double the number of guards under my command. There are now so many captive Galarians and articulate soldiers that we're being forced to put down the unsupervised surplus. I suggest we remove the guard from the secret passageway where you know whose ghost hides, or reduce the number of sentries at the groaning gate. Either way, no enemy is capable of bursting through them. I'd also ask to abolish the need to keep watch over Alderpash's cells. Any guard assigned to his chambers gets immediately corrupted by his bribes and promises, becomes his spy, and has to be executed at once as a warning to the rest. Beyond that, I'd like to report the preposterous behavior of the priestess Vendak. Keeps taking my warriors to perform her sacrifices, and demanding that my sorcerers restore the magical barrier around some empty cage every cycle. It's about time someone put that deranged woman in her place. Bowing before your deathly glory, your unworthy slave, Appanavicius. I get the Warden's key. And Warden's circlet. A lavishly decorated tiara that Baphomet used to crown the first Warden of the Ineluctable Prison. Rivers of blood have been spilled for the right to own this great treasure. Its headband of mental perfection +4 grants its wearer the ability to summon 2 Labyrinth Demidan destroyers to fight on their side for 2 minutes twice per day. Alright, we're gonna swap this out. Where'd it go? Indomitable Punisher. Sounds cool. I've just gotta find it. This +5 axiomatic shocking burst Tongi grants its wearer +5 competence bonus to CMB. Legends of the Dark Knights by Matthias Erd. The once beautifully bound book is now in a pitiful state. The spine is torn, the cover is burnt, the pages have either been soiled or ripped out. One of the legends described on the remaining pages is covered in scribbles and crossings out. It said that in times past, lived a blind mortal woman. Robbed of daylight from birth, without ever having seen the true world around her, she lost her mind at a young age, but a strange passion for things others avoided, like the plague. Above all other pleasures and joys of this world, he cherished death, for the rest of the line is stretched out. Their handwritten words below read, "This silly woman has never met a succubus." Even though the fate was cruel to her, the woman, dubbed the Ashen Lady, was a kind and generous soul, especially toward those who were to her liking. To them, she gave the most precious gift she could imagine, death. The most artful and beautiful of the ends she granted was the Ashen Death. The page is torn, you can still make out the writing under the bedraggled edge. Amateur. Many a mortal was sent to a better place by the Ashen Lady, where she was incredibly skilled and deft at her craft. Seemingly weak and helpless, she could bring out the pity and compassion in those dear to her. These emotions were followed by a swift death. No one could believe that a blind woman was capable of the kind of treachery and stealth that the Ashen Lady employed. Only those who were destined to die by her hand knew the secret. She You would mark her victims with a curse, and then follow its scent like a tireless hound. You notice a scrawling on the side of the page that reads, Drivel. The Ashen Lady would have brought much more misery to her friends and loved ones, had she not received retribution for her sins. Upon hearing word that some crafty murderer had surpassed her own misdeeds with her grim accomplishments, Baphomet's cultists disposed of their rival. They captured her and dragged her down into the abyss. The scribble on the side reads, Serves her right. Let the wretch waste away in our cells. Alright, well, we've run across her already.
I know the way.
The mortal before you, who has been turned into a doll, is looking at you in desperation. There's but one plea in her gaze. Be granted peace. Sour guts broth.
I'm glad I was useful to you.
Seems the prison warden enjoyed the suffering of her inmates so much, she even provided herself with a panoramic view of the prison cells from her office.
Follow my lead.
Doubt is the
I'll send
heart's
Lan once
greatest
around the
challenge.
room just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I'm curious.
Alright, so before we go this way, I want to go back. There was that path with the boulder that I avoided earlier. Also these puzzles. I might go through back off camera and jot down all those clues for these puzzles and see if we can't solve those. Probably in the next one. Oh, there's a secret door here.
I finished here. Is there more?
Howling Doom. Whenever the wielder of this +5 Furious Bastard Sword lands a killing blow, it casts Greater Shout as an 18th level wizard immediately afterwards. Sounds pretty good.
As it should be.
So here's the boulder path. Wait for it to roll through, then we're gonna make a run for it.
That is not far.
Oh gosh.
Focus on the goal. Ready for anything.
Anybody
Are
destroy
we
this
in
place?
trouble yet?
Thank you. My character is too big to do it.
Meditate on your
Time's not
mistakes. Might make you feel better.
Also, these boulders aren't hurting us.
Right splendidly.
More stairs, but I want to see what's in this direction before we go down them.
I'll go ahead.
Something over there.
Let's take a look around. But it's covered with old moldy sheets that haven't been changed in a long time. The Julian Demon Dan stares at you dully. Unfinished golem with small gems installed in its eyes. Bookshelf is full of rare arcane tomes, so ancient that even the dust that rests on them is priceless. These scrolls look so old they might crumble to dust at a single touch. On the basics of Sin Magic. The roots of Sin Magic are in the 7 virtues of rule laid down by Archmage Zin, sovereign of the Thessalonian Empire. According to his teachings, the virtues charity, generosity, humility, kindness, love, temperance, and zeal were a gift from one of the supreme goddesses of the empire, Lasala. Only just and wise rulers would be deemed worthy of receiving these high rewards. A metamorphosis, however, turned the 7 virtues into 7 sins. In Thassalon, the 7 strongest mages, named Rune Lords, had been made governors of each part of the vast empire that had grown beyond one human's control. Emperor Zin's reign ended when he died at the hands of his own stewards. With the emperor deposed and a puppet installed as his replacement, his Rune Lords became true masters of their territories. Plotting against each other and warping Zin's tenets, mages gradually perverted the 7 virtues, while becoming manifestations of these corrupt aspects. Greed, lust, pride, gluttony, envy, wrath, and sloth sent to the lands of Thassalon, plunging the empire into the depths of depravity and profligacy, causing it to crumble from the inside. Even though Earthfall brought about the end of the nation, it did not put an end to the Rune Lords' misdeeds. For each of them had foreseen the calamity, did all in their power to prevent their death and the disaster that destroyed Thassalon. This undead was dissected with great skill and care. The pages of this book are hopelessly ruined. It is no longer possible to read it. However, the soothing aura around it persists despite Baphomet's minions' best efforts.
I finished here. Is there more?
Together, we stand. Lead on.
So here's Alderpash. He's the one that Epinavicius had said was bribing all the guards. The room you're in looks more like a palace than a prison. Every part of it is impeccably clean, despite the fact that the cell's inhabitant has been dead for millennia. The words coming out of the dead man's mouth catch you off guard. Why, hello there, my dear. I've been waiting and waiting, wondering what my guest was up to, why he hadn't shown up yet. Don't be shy. Have a seat. Eat to your heart's content. When you're someone important, you don't talk business standing up now, do you? And we do indeed have business to discuss. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Alderpash, Rune Lord of Wrath, a destroyer and a conqueror, the great tyrant of Bakrakhan. Doesn't ring any bells. I understand. Many millennia have passed, and all of them I've spent in this prison as Baphomet's captive. It's been a while since I've strolled around Golarion. My heart was still beating back then. It wasn't until later that I became a Lich. Wasn't fond of the idea of dying a prisoner here, you see. Well, that's all beside the point. The guards tipped me off that you had barged into this prison. I thought fate might bring you to my doorstep. I've been expecting you since. A marvelous find. I've long been looking for a sufficiently old but sentient undead specimen to test my theory about the onset of postmortem senility. Yoo-hoo, Mr. Mummy. We're gonna run a few cognitive tests. I will say a word. The rest of Nenio's monologue is drowned out by Aldepash's creaking laughter. Trust me, young lady. I'm in no danger of going senile. But I like you. You remind me of an acquaintance of mine. It's been such a long, long time. She was good, both at work and... But this is no time for reminiscence, and even less so for experiments. Rumors about you have been going around the Abyss for a while now. Rumors fly free, you see. Can't snare them, can't cage them. Even down here, in the deepest dungeons, a tale flies by every now and again about the time you took Dresden from the demons, about the time a goddess and a demon came to coax you to their side. I've long since wanted to see you for myself and take your measure. You feel the dead eyes fix their gaze on you. I see. That explains it. They say that your deeds cannot have been performed by a simple mortal, but you're not simple at all. A creature of life and death, a wanderer between the light and the dark. I've met someone like you only once, and she too accomplished quite a lot in her strange half-life. Try the food on the table. The dishes offered to you are all exquisite, an unexpected sensation for a place such as Baphomet's prison, and they're certainly much better than travel rations. I'm not usually one to say no to a free meal, but in this place, from this guy, let's just say I'm on a diet until we're out of the labyrinth. I want to know more about you. By all means, I see no reason not to tell you. I've got some impressive stories to share. I was a great tyrant in life. Good folk were scared witless of me. And in death, as you can see, my power is nothing to sniff at. I continue my explorations on magic, the kind that your generation knows nothing about. Go ahead, my dear. Ask away. He gives you a benevolent smile. So we have a common enemy in Baphomet. Indeed. Alas, I haven't had the pleasure of wounding him by my own hand, although I dearly love to spill his guts. Yes, I've heard about your feat. Ever since he rushed back to his abyssal realm and locked himself up in his citadel, everyone's been going on and on about you, my dear. What kind of mortal is this that managed to injure our mighty lord? Alderpash lowers his voice in a confiding manner. He won't soon forget you. He may be ancient, but he's such a child at heart. He's been the same ever since he was created. All he cares about are his grudges. Asmodeus wounded him. Lamassu left him. Ascari doesn't see him as his equal. Now Tigli refused to bed him. He's a walking collection of scars. His wounds are his essence. So you take heed now. Tell me of your great accomplishments. They don't teach you youngsters anything these days. Then listen well. 10,000 years ago, there was a great empire of Thassalon, and no nation of today could hold a candle to its glory. It was led by Emperor Zin, in accordance with the 7 virtues of rule. His reign was long but ended in tragedy. Zin was deposed by 7 stewards, who then split Thassalon between them. They twisted the virtues of rule for the sake of their ever-growing power, and created the magic of the 7 vices. By the way, those spells of yours, all those silly schools, they were all based on our concepts, except you lot have lost track of their substance, the power itself over the centuries. The 7 great mages of yore called themselves the Rune Lords, the first of whom was me, Alderpash, Lord of Bakrakan, Rune Lord of Wrath. I'm not going to list all my deeds, that would be boastful. Let's just say I spilled enough blood to fill all the rivers of Golarion, and the tears my actions brought to fill the same thrice over. Yes, my reign was grand and glorious, and they would tremble at the mention of my name for many centuries to come. You don't look like a villain to me. Alderpash snickers gleefully. Why, that's because I'm not one. They just call me that, and for what? Was putting 7,000 slaves on stakes for their rebellion, an act of villainy. I had the well-being of others in mind. I gave them a warning, so they wouldn't die a horrible death. As for plundering neighboring kingdoms and beheading my servants, there's no evil in that at all. It's just the daily life of any ruler. Okay. I am prone to fits of temper, yes, but only when there's a good reason. If someone failed me, I'd smite them without mercy. But such lack of restraint is a part of my power and my talent. This is how we Rune Lords of Wrath are. I remember about 1,000 or so years after I was first thrown in here, a woman by the name of Elasnist came to visit. She was a fierce one too. Ripped my skull off and took it with her as a trophy. Haha. Then she went to Bakrakan, found the one who was the Rune Lord of Wrath at the time, the 3rd one after me. Executed his wife and 7 children, made the ruler himself into an undead. She kept whispering to my skull, asking for advice. She really took a shine to me. There was something, that one, the last Rune Lord of Wrath in history, mind you. So I'm not angry with her about the skull. Why would I be? I was reborn from my phylactery anyway, good as new. Where do you keep your phylactery? Alderpash smirked slyly. What a curious question. And what, pray tell, do you need this knowledge for, my dear? Methinks you shouldn't be troubling that clever young head of yours with secrets like that. Let's say you find out where it is. Then what? Let's say you destroy it. But why would you? We're not enemies. We're allies. Besides, you couldn't find it if you tried. I'm no buffoon. My phylactery is hidden in a safe place far from here. His soft, harmless chuckle could have fooled many, but you notice his hand twitching as soon as you mention the phylactery. I want to learn more about your magic research. Oh my dear, I've been keeping busy with all sorts of things over the centuries. I bet you youngsters haven't even heard a whisper about our magic of sin. When Baphomet locked me in here, he wrapped me up in his spells good and tight. The enchantment was so powerful, it bound my soul to this very cell. Things I've attempted to circumvent his handiwork, conjuring golems to spread my power beyond the walls of this prison, moving my consciousness into other bodies. So many minds obliterated in that particular effort, and all for naught. When I grew desperate, I whipped up some fanciful undead, just to vex Baphomet and lay waste to his jail. Must have slaughtered half the labyrinth, then stopped. It was too much of a hassle. I'm just bragging at this point. For you to understand my discoveries, you'd have to study as my apprentice for an age or two. You know what kind of education mages used to get? Far beyond anything they teach these days. Needless to say, I've hid my most valuable creations and treasures far from this place, so that Baphomet can't get his hands on any of them. The guards assigned to me were kind as to accept a modest bribe and carry them out of the prison to stow somewhere safe. His phylactery, however, was not one of them. Your knowledge tells you that Alderpash could not have removed his greatest treasure from the prison, as it contains his very soul. Baphomet's magic would make no distinction between the phylactery and the Lich's physical body. Now everything is clear. Alderpash wags his finger at you. You spring chickens are also hasty. Wait till your hair goes white, and you'll see how little was actually clear to you in your youth. Tell me about the Ineluctable Prison. Well, what are you interested in, my dear? I know a fair bit. My guards, you see, some of them like coin, and some are just afraid of me. So they tell me everything. I listen to their confessions each and every day. That's why I know all about the secret paths through this here maze, and a thing or two about the inmates. Alderpash perks up and adds in a cheerful voice. Here's a story for you, a fresh one. Believe it or not, lately, this place has been having a bit of a pest problem in the form of rock. A sneaky little thing, and nosy too. She filches any old thing, no matter its value. But goodness is she dim, or she is dim. She even paid me a visit, thought I was sleeping. He giggles boisterously, looking at the bloodstains in the far corner. I had to, pluck, a couple of feathers. How do I find my way through the labyrinth? What do you think demonic pathways are for? Haven't you seen the arcane symbols inscribed all over the place? Those fiendish scribbles are the portals you need. They tie all the cells together. The demons hop right through them. There's a place that you need that's of any importance whatsoever. It'll have a magic symbol like that. I'm looking for Iomede's herald. He's being held here. He rolls his unnerving eyes. The noisy fellow. Honestly, all that screaming. I know they're torturing him, but still. I wish I could take his melodious throat and weld it shut with white-hot lead so he'd stop bothering everyone else. But no, can't get to him. They're holding him in the most secure torture room of all, and the wardens always keep the coveted key close by. Who in this prison can help me fight Baphomet? Alderpash laughs, baring his strong, large yellowish teeth. Oh my dear, this dungeon is full of those who wish Baphomet ill. There's a catch though. Most of them are dead as mutton. Not like me, I mean. Properly dead. Their bones are dust. Nothing but a ghost left. They're not going anywhere. That's the magic of the Ineluctable Prison for you. They sit here, all locked up and cry. Oh, how they cry. When the angel was brought in to be tortured, they all found themselves a cranny to hide in. They peek between the stones. You might find someone who can tell you something useful. Tell me about the history of this place. The Ineluctable Prison is Baphomet's favorite toy, but no matter how much he brags about it, it's not of his making. Back when Baphomet was still a lusty young goat, he was itching to impress his mother and lover Lamashtu. He thought stealing the Prince of Darkness's most treasured scepter was a fantastic idea. Like any other foolish endeavor, it all ended in tears. Asmodeus caught the thief by the horns, gave him a good spanking, burned his cattle brand on Baphomet's forehead, and threw him into the ivory labyrinth, brought in darkness and utter rancor. That's where the Prince of Darkness made his blunder, as my subjects knew well before imprisoning a thief, one should cut off both their hands, but that's the only way to wean them off this awful habit. Baphomet called to his esteemed mother. Lamastri refused to save such an embarrassment, and our little goat was left all alone. I don't know what he did to get the demon lord Ereshkigal's attention, but she took a sudden interest in his troubles, gave him a clue about how to escape. Don't go thinking she's some paragon of mercy, however. She's still a demon, and her gift was poisoned. In his attempts to make sense of Ereshkigal's words, our goat drove himself quite insane, which undoubtedly brought his benefactor a great deal of entertainment. Yet he managed to solve her riddle, and once he did, he stole the ivory labyrinth and brought it into the abyss. He couldn't leave, you know. Such was Asmodeus' will. But technically, he never left. He was still in the maze. A true rascal. Labyrinth became the heart of the realm that he formed in the abyss after his escape. He must have been feeling nostalgic about the good old days. How else can you explain the fact that he turned the seal burned on his brow by Asmodeus into his second personal symbol? I guess the little hornhead misses the good old days when he's tortured on the Prince of Darkness's rack. How did you end up here? I was betrayed, my dear. Sorshin, Rune Lord of Lust, was nothing compared to me. Yet she wanted to take my place as the leader and found a source of truly legendary powers. Naturally, I was furious and thought I'd do away with the upstart. To even the odds, I made a deal with Baphomet. I borrowed a part of his might and promised to give him Sorshin when I was done playing with her. Oh, she was a wild one. But the Lord of Beasts came to me and demanded payment when I was just putting my cunning plans into motion. It goes without saying that Baphomet was more interested in taking me instead of some Sorshin. So under the pretext of me breaking the terms of our pact, he seized me. A show of treachery on his part, yes. What else could you expect from a demon? Not all prisoners are allowed this kind of luxury. Don't be fooled. This is all just Baphomet's idea of a joke. That weasel wants to remind me every day how much I lost when he captured me. He went to the trouble of making my cell look exactly like my chambers in Bakrakhan. My dear, sometimes I take one look at it, and I just... He stops mid-sentence, touching his fists until they crack. You notice signs of repeated, rigorous restoration all around. It's like Alderpash has had a number of fits of temper over the centuries of imprisonment. You notice that, contrary to what Alderpash has just said, now all of the interior of his cells of this cell belongs to the heir of the Rune Lord's rule in Thassalon. Far from it. Many items in here came in use at much later period in history, mostly those that are implements for the arcane arts. You can clearly tell that Alderpash's phylactery is somewhere within his chambers, despite his attempts to hide this fact. His concern is understandable. After all, if you destroy it, you'll lose his immortality. The phylactery could be absolutely anything, any of the furnishings or the trinkets around here. Alright, everything is clear to me now. Well, that's wonderful, my dear. Youth are so full of curiosity in this day and age. What sort of business do you have with me? Here's the thing. I've grown weary of sitting here, and I can't escape. I've tried so many things, every trick in the book. Nothing. Baphomet placed enchantments on me that hold me in this cell, and utterly refuse to let me walk out the door. And anti-magic spells have never been my forte. I've always believed incineration to be the best defense against enemy sorcery, and here I am, languishing in here. Would you, my dear, kindly help me escape? I'd make it worth your while. What do you say? What kind of payment will I get for helping you? I have something that could prove useful to you. Back when I still lived, it was interesting in a certain plane called Jandalay. Remarkable place, a chimera of sorts, the graveyard for dead planets. Getting there is tricky. I managed to capture one of the guardians of that plane. I wore them down in a torture chamber, bringing some of their knowledge from them before they perished. He traces an unfinished rune on the table with his finger. This is part of the rune of Jandalay that offers protection from chaos. A substantial asset in the war with the demons, don't you think? Help me regain my freedom. I'll teach you or your servants how to inscribe this rune. What will you do if you get out of here? Alderpash says in a nonchalant tone. Well, first, I'll get my kingdom back. I would slave the populace, conquer my neighbors, maybe commit genocide against some particularly unruly nation. Build myself an army by taking children from their mothers and putting the latter to the sword. Orphans make for loyal troops, you know? I'll clap everyone else in irons, make them work without a moment's rest until my coffers are overflowing. Those who are useless in both war and work will be cut down in mass sacrifices. Basically, I'll make myself comfortable, lead a quiet existence without bothering anyone. I won't help you. Clicking his tongue, Alderpash shakes his head disapprovingly. Young people are so quick to judge. I was so close to swearing that the misdeeds I'll commit when I'm free won't affect you. Think about this some more, my dear. No rash decisions now. Alright, I have to go. He waves his hand absent-mindedly. Yes, yes. Off you go, my dear. Alright, so we're going to try and track down his phylactery in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to call the episode here. We'll deal with him next time, and then we'll continue exploring the labyrinth. We still have a few paths to take, and a few puzzles to solve.
I am prepared.
But for now, thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one.